What if I told you that by the end of this video, you'd see money completely differently? Not just save more, spend less, differently. I mean the kind of clarity that quietly separates people who build wealth from people who just look like they have it. That shift starts right now. Picture two apartments, same city, same block, similar rent. The first one belongs to someone pulling in $95,000 a year. Walk in and you see it immediately. A massive wall-mounted TV, a sectional that cost more than some people's monthly salary, a kitchen packed with gadgets still in their original packaging. The closet is a retail graveyard, tags still on half the clothes. A spare room that's basically a storage unit for things nobody's touched in 2 years. This person checks their bank balance the way you check your blind spot on the highway. Nervous, every time. The second apartment belongs to someone earning $52,000. Walk in and you notice something weird. Space. A normal-sized couch. A clean kitchen with tools that actually get used. A closet where everything fits and everything gets worn. The spare room is just a room. A real one. This person has 14 months of living expenses saved. Invests 20% of every paycheck. Sleeps fine. Same neighborhood. The person earning almost half as much has 10 times the financial stability. Think about that for a second. This isn't about income. It's about something most people never stop to examine. Here's the thing nobody tells you about the stuff you own. Everything costs you twice. The first cost is obvious. It's the price tag, the number you hand over at checkout. Fine, you know that one. The second cost, that's where it gets interesting. And honestly, that's where most people lose. Let's say you bought a treadmill, maybe $700, maybe $900. It sits in your bedroom or your garage, taking up roughly 20 square feet of floor space. In most mid-size American cities, space costs somewhere between $30 and $50 per square foot per year in rent. That treadmill is quietly eating $300 to $600 a year, just to exist in your home. And most days, it's holding a jacket. Same math applies to that boat parked in a storage lot across town. Annual maintenance runs roughly 10% of the boat's value. A $25,000 boat costs you around $2,500 a year, whether you take it out or not. Every year, whether it rains or not. But here's the part that actually bothers me. The cost you can't put on a receipt. Mental energy. Every item you own takes up a tiny slice of your brain. You have to clean it, organize around it, worry about it, insure it, wonder why you still have it. Visual clutter raises cortisol levels and makes it genuinely harder to focus. Your stuff is stressing you out in ways you don't even consciously notice. And then there's opportunity cost. That $12,000 home gym setup sitting mostly unused could have been index funds. 15 years from now, at historical market returns, that's closer to $40,000. You didn't buy a home gym, you bought a home gym instead of future freedom. When you actually add it all up, many things cost more to own than they cost to buy. So, here's the first rule. People who always have money follow. Before any purchase, estimate how many times you'll realistically use it. Divide the total cost. That's your cost per use. A $180 jacket worn 3 times costs $60 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper in any way that matters. This math destroys impulse purchases. Fast. That $250 kitchen gadget you'll use maybe twice a year, that's $125 per use. For a gadget, meanwhile, a $30 pan you use 4 nights a week costs you less than 15 cents per use by the end of year 1. But flip it around. A $1,500 mattress used every night for 10 years. That's about 41 cents per use. For something that directly affects your energy, your focus, your mood every single day. That's extraordinary value. The math cuts through everything. Emotion, marketing, social pressure. It just shows you what's actually worth it. Walk through your home. Look at each item. Ask one question. If this disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Would you actually go buy another waffle iron? Those jeans you keep telling yourself you'll fit into again? That bread maker sitting in the back of the cabinet? For most items, the honest answer is no. They exist through inertia, not intention. Old habits. Gifts you felt weird donating. Remnants of phases you quietly moved past. These items have negative value, They're costing you space, mental energy, and maintenance without giving you anything back. Minimalists eliminate items that fail this test. They sell what has value, donate what someone else can use, let go of the rest. It feels uncomfortable for about 10 minutes. Then it feels like putting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. Rooms feel bigger. You know where everything is. Cleaning takes half the time. That mental fog you've been living in starts to lift. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this one hits people who think they're being responsible. There's a pattern I see constantly in people with solid incomes who somehow have almost nothing saved. They upgrade things that work, not because those things broke, just because they got bored. Their phone does everything they need, but the new model has a slightly better camera. Their car is reliable, but the new year model has cleaner lines. Their furniture serves its purpose perfectly, but they've been staring at it for 3 years and want something fresh. These upgrades feel like progress. They're not. They're wealth destruction dressed up as self-improvement. The average American replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, usually while the old one still functions completely fine. Over 30 years, that pattern alone costs $30,000 to $50,000 in unnecessary purchases. Apply that same logic across cars, furniture, electronics, and appliances, and you're looking at lifetime waste that clears $200,000. Let that number sit for a second. Minimalists define functional strictly. Something is functional until it genuinely cannot perform its purpose. Boredom isn't a reason. The neighbor buying something shinier, definitely not a reason. Everything else is marketing convincing you to solve a problem you don't have. Let me tell you about a guy I'll call Marcus, marketing manager, making around $88,000 a year. Good job, decent apartment, nice car. On paper, looked completely fine. Then his company went through layoffs. Not his fault, just timing. He had 11 days of expenses saved. 11 days. Within 3 weeks, he was behind on rent. Within 6 weeks, he was negotiating with a credit card company. Within 2 months, his relationship fell apart. Not entirely because of money, but the financial stress cracked everything open. He told me later that the worst part wasn't the spiral itself. It was realizing that 3 years of a real salary had evaporated into a TV he barely watches, a car with payments, and a closet full of clothes that were supposed to make him feel like he had it together. He didn't lose his job and become poor. He was already fragile. The job loss just made it visible. That's the trap. A lifestyle that consumes every dollar you earn feels completely fine until one thing breaks. Here's something that actually works. And it's embarrassingly simple. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance. If spending is easy and saving is hard, you'll spend. If saving is automatic and spending requires effort, you save. So build friction into spending. Delete stored payment info from retail sites. Create a 48-hour waiting window before any non-essential purchase. Remove shopping apps from your phone. Unsubscribe from every promotional email. Don't browse stores without a specific list. Build ease into saving. Set automatic transfers to investment accounts the same day your paycheck lands. Keep your checking account lean. Treat your savings contribution like rent, non-negotiable, already gone before you see it. Willpower is not a reliable system. It depletes. People make worse decisions when they're tired, stressed, or emotional, which is exactly when most impulse purchases happen. Systems don't deplete. If the app is gone and the card isn't saved, you physically cannot impulse buy in that moment. The 48-hour rule alone eliminates around 70% of purchase urges. Most desires for things fade within a day when you don't act on them immediately. This is the one that traps high earners more than anything else. If you never define what enough looks like, you will spend everything you make. Every time your income goes up, your lifestyle expands to meet it. New income becomes new normal. New normal requires new income. The cycle runs indefinitely. People earning $250,000 are often just as financially stressed as people earning $75,000 because their expectations moved with their income and they never drew a line. Minimalists decide in advance. A $350,000 home is enough, even if I could eventually afford $500,000. A $32,000 car is enough, even when colleagues drive twice that. This wardrobe is enough even as my salary grows. Defining enough creates a finish line. Without it, you're running a race with no end. Consider two people both earning $140,000 a year. One defined enough at $60,000 in annual spending years ago and never moved the line. The other keeps redefining enough upward. That first person is banking $80,000 a year toward actual freedom. The second is wondering where it all went. Same income, completely different trajectories. Here's the real definition of wealth, and it has almost nothing to do with what you own. Can you leave a job that's damaging your health without panicking? Can you take 4 months off if a family member needs you? Can you say no to a high-paying opportunity that conflicts with your values? Can you start something new without guaranteed income backing you up? Those options define actual financial freedom. The person earning $190,000 and spending $185,000 has almost none of that. They are locked into their income. One bad quarter, one health crisis, one restructuring, and they're Marcus. The person earning $70,000 and spending $40,000 has enormous options. They can absorb disruption, they can take risks, they can make decisions based on what they actually want rather than what they financially need. Optionality requires liquid margin, not physical possessions. The money sitting in a car you didn't need is money that cannot buy your freedom when you need it most. Every purchase is a trade. You're not exchanging money for an object. You're trading future options for present possession. Is it worth it? Sometimes yes. Usually, honestly, no. This sounds obsessive until you do it once. Count how many shirts you own. Most people guess around 15 and discover they have 38. How many kitchen items? How many pairs of shoes? How many books you'll never open again? The number changes your behavior. When you know you own 41 shirts, buying another feels different. You're not adding a shirt, you're making it 42. The absurdity becomes impossible to ignore. Set maximum thresholds for categories that tend to grow. Whatever makes sense for your actual life. One in, one out. That constraint alone creates more friction than any rule about spending. Most things people buy get used intensely for about 3 weeks. Then, enthusiasm fades. The item joins the permanent collection of things owned, but never touched. Here's what minimalists do differently. They test before they commit. Want to get into camping? Rent a full setup for 2 weekends first. Tent, sleeping bag, cooking gear, the whole thing. $50 to $80 a trip. If after 2 trips you're already planning the third, then you buy. If after 2 trips you remember why you hate bugs and sleeping on the ground, you just saved yourself $800 in gear that would have lived in your closet forever. Same logic applies to woodworking. A decent beginner setup costs $1,200 easy, but makerspaces exist in almost every mid-sized city now. Monthly membership runs around $60 to $90. You get access to professional tools, learn what you actually need, and figure out whether this is a real passion or just a YouTube rabbit hole phase. Most people who join a makerspace buy far less equipment when they eventually do purchase, because they know exactly what they use and exactly what they don't. Want a kayak? Rentals run $25 to $40 for a half day. Do it 4 times before you spend $1,000 on something that ends up strapped to your garage ceiling for 11 months a year. The buy-first mentality costs people enormously. Garages across America are basically museums of past enthusiasm. Ski gear from a phase that lasted 1 winter. A guitar from when they thought they'd finally learn. Photography equipment from a project that never made it past week 4. A sewing machine. A bread maker. A pasta roller still in the box. Real talk. Most hobbies have a rental or borrowing option. Use it. Test the interest before you fund it. The only thing worse than not pursuing something you love is spending $1,000 to find out you don't actually love it. Here's something people almost never calculate. Every major purchase you make comes with a family. You buy a boat. Suddenly you need a trailer, a hitch installed on your vehicle, storage fees because it can't sit in your driveway year-round, winterization every fall, safety equipment, and eventually, a truck capable of actually towing it, because your Camry isn't going to cut it, and deep down you knew that before you signed the paperwork. That boat didn't cost $30,000. It cost $30,000 plus the trailer, plus the hitch, plus storage, plus a truck upgrade you now have justification for. You just bought an ecosystem. You thought you bought a boat. Watch how this plays out with a pool. Installation runs $30,000 to $60,000 depending on size and finish. Fine. But now you need chemicals, and a testing kit, and a skimmer, and a pool vacuum, and patio furniture, because a pool with no seating looks abandoned, and probably landscaping because suddenly the rest of the yard looks bad by comparison. Most pool owners spend $4,000 to $8,000 per year just maintaining the thing, and most pool owners use it heavily for about 6 weeks per summer. That's a lot of money per swim. A home gym follows the same pattern. The rack and weights are just the beginning. Then comes the flooring because concrete destroys equipment and your joints. Then mirrors. Then a fan because it gets suffocating in there. Then a sound system because silence is unbearable during a 45-minute workout. What started as a $1,500 decision becomes a $5,000 room renovation. Minimalists do one thing before any major purchase. They write down every single thing they would need to own, maintain, store, or upgrade to fully use that item. The full ecosystem cost, not just the sticker price. That number almost always changes the decision. And here's the flip side. When you eliminate one major possession, you often eliminate an entire category of expenses with it. Sell the boat and the storage fees disappear. The insurance disappears. The maintenance appointments disappear. The annual registration disappears. The savings extend far beyond what the item itself was worth. Removing one thing sometimes feels like cutting one thread and watching an entire knot come loose. Most people who try minimalism do one massive clean-out, feel incredible for a month, then slowly drift back to where they started. Within 2 years, fully reset. The purge worked. The system didn't. Cyclical decluttering fixes this. Weekly, spend 5 minutes reviewing incoming items. Monthly, evaluate one specific category. Quarterly, check overall accumulation trends. This catches the drift early before it rebuilds into something overwhelming. Removing 3 items a week is manageable. Removing 300 items once a year is a project you'll postpone twice before doing half of it. Regular evaluation also builds awareness. You start noticing which emotional states trigger purchasing, which marketing tactics actually work on you specifically. You start preventing accumulation instead of just treating it after the fact. Here's what nobody really tells you about all of this. It works in both directions. Owning less creates more money, but having more money makes owning less feel natural. When your savings are real, when your investments are actually growing, the psychological urgency to acquire things starts to dissolve. The emotional void that drives most consumption, it gets filled by actual security instead. You don't need the stuff to feel like you're doing okay, because the numbers already tell you that story. The destructive cycle runs in reverse. Spending everything creates anxiety. Anxiety drives more spending as temporary relief. More spending creates deeper anxiety. That cycle runs until something external forces a breaking point. High earners caught in that loop build nothing. Modest earners riding the virtuous cycle build everything. Income matters far less than the gap between income and spending. The person from that second apartment, $52,000 a year, with 14 months of savings, they're not winning because they earn less. They're winning because they got clear on what actually matters, and then they stopped spending money on everything else. That kind of clarity is available to you right now, regardless of what you earn. The only question is whether you want to own your possessions, or whether you're comfortable letting your possessions own you.